Hi everyone, my name is Fab and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about a horror novel written by Thomas Olde Heuvelt, and I'm talking about X. So this book is a horror novel that was originally written in Dutch, and the author had the opportunity when this was translated in English to rewrite again the story, and the author decided to relocate the story in the USA. He had the opportunity to change the story a little bit, also the ending especially. I don't know how the original story was ending. I'm really curious to know, but I haven't found out yet. And what he did was to use the folklore and history about witchcraft's trial in America and put it in this book. Because what we are dealing with in this book is basically a town that is cursed by a witch. So what this book talks about. So we are in Black Springs, and this town has been cursed in the 700s because this witch called Catherine, this woman called Catherine was considered a witch, and she was forced to kill her child because they thought that she raised this child from the dead and dealing with the devil. And basically, after they forced her to kill her own child, they forced her also to commit suicide. And when this happened, I think the year after they forced her to kill herself, this town was cursed. They started seeing this witch around, and this witch started cursing people, like whispering in their ear and forcing them to commit suicide, so taking revenge for what was done to her. And so to block this curse, they decided to sew their eyes and her mouth, so they will stop the evil eye to spread and to curse this town even more. But what happens is that this secret about this witch is taken forward until the nowadays. So this book is set in 2012 because I think it was written in that year, if I remember well, I'm not sure. This book is interesting for the way technology is used in respect to this witch. What I'm saying is that basically this town, to control the phenomenon about this witch, is hiding this secret from the surrounding towns and their surrounding cities of this place. And also they have technology to take the situation under control, like they had cameras that are watching all over the cities, kind of a big brother situation in a way. And also there is this app called X, where they can spot the witch and tell where she is, so they can pay attention to her and like ignore her or take her under control or cover her if they like there are visitors in this town. Because obviously the fact that there is this kind of folklore in this town attract visitors, and they want to hide this secret that is very dangerous, because if someone opens the eyes of the or the mouth of the witch again, something terrible will happen. Because they tried once, they cut like one of the stitches in her mouth, and just cutting one of the stitches, a lot of people died for that reason. So they decided that they have to pay attention to this phenomenon and to contain it, to prevent this evil to spread all around the town and cause a disaster. And basically that's why this app exists, because they want to control the phenomenon. Like the first part of this book was in a way funny, because they are so used to her presence that they like say, oh, Catherine is here, like we just ignore her, or they like throw a towel over her, or they cover her with a sheet or something, just to not see her, because they acknowledge her presence, but at the same time they kind of ignore her. It's like so rooted in the town that is part of it, and they try to go on with their lives despite the witch curse. And what is interesting also is the fact that no one can escape this town of Black Springs, because it would be easy just to abandon this town and just live somewhere else, not to deal with the curse. But they can't, because the curse of everyone that settles into this town is brought also when they move or they leave the town. When they leave this town, they feel the fact that they want to commit suicide and they want to disappear from the face of the earth. That's what will happen if you leave this town. So they are forced to stay into this town, and they can do anything about it apart from go on with their life and contain this phenomenon. So the first part is interesting and funny for this way, because there is this hub where they control this witch, and they say, oh, this witch is right here at this hour, and she's standing like in front of a signpost or something like that, or she's just in the corner of my house standing there, and they cover it with a sheet, something like that. The second part is the most disturbing one, and this is the one where we go deep into the horror of the story. So what we are talking about in this book is basically this town and the family, the Grant family. We have Steve, that is the father, Jocelyn, the mother, and the two kids that are Tyler, is the older one, and then we have Matt, that is the younger one. And they all are well described, especially the two kids that are probably the main characters. Also with Steve, because Steve is probably the main character of this story. And so we are seeing this story through their experience with this witch and what will happen next. The second part of this book is very disturbing. There was a chapter that was really intense and unsettling, and I had to put it down for a while because I couldn't go on at that point. I don't want to make spoilers, but it was very unsettling for me. I had to put it down for a little and take it back later just to digest what was happening in this book. While I was reading this book, I had some opposite feelings for this story. I knew how this town was cursed and was subjected to this curse. But at the same time, I feel sorry for the witch, because what was done to her in the past and what is still done to her at the time that this book is taking place is very sad, in my opinion. And in a way, you're not against the witch herself, because you know what she went through and you feel sorry for her. You know that this is a bad thing, because this what is happening in this town is terrible. They're subjected to this curse, but at the same time you think about the fact that you get what you deserve. What goes around comes around. Karma always strikes, if you know what I mean. So if you're feeling that this book is a fast-paced one, no, it's not. It's a slow-burn book, and you have to read a lot of chapters before you get into the action of the story. But eventually it hits with all its might, and you're so oppressed in a way by the things that happen in this book that at that point you're so engaged that you'll go on. Like, it's really intriguing. The second part is the most action-packed. There are some things that are a bit disturbing and terrifying. What I loved about Heuvelt's story is how he described the hypocrisy of society. Like, you see how these people live their perfect life under this curse, but at the same time they're kind of hypocritical for what it happens. Like, you can see how it takes nothing to change a well-behaved person into a barbarian one, and that's what basically happens in this book. Like, you see how as long as this curse is oppressing these people, it will lead to madness, like in the very sense of the word. What I also liked about this book is how the sorrow is described for the loss of someone that you loved. I had some kind of Pet Cemetery vibes. That's what I got from the emotional part of the story. This is the first book by this author. There is another one coming up that has already been published in 2019 in Dutch, and now they're translating it in English. I don't know if that book will be changed, because I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about the plot of that book, but I think this author is really good, because this book is very original. Never read something like this, where folklore was mixed up with technology. And it's something very original, because you can see how this is the opposite of what happens usually with technology and supernatural entities. You always see, like, when there is a supernatural being or a ghost or something like that, usually technology never works. It stopped working because the supernatural entity stops or blocks this technology. And this is actually the opposite, because technology is how they can acknowledge the presence of this witch, and they can record their own camera, something that usually never happened with supernatural stuff. So this was the original part of this book, and that's what I liked so much about this story. I also liked how the author made an effort to adapt this story for a wider audience. In my opinion, that wasn't really necessary, because I would have enjoyed knowing more about the Dutch culture. And there are some elements that made you realize that this book was originally in Dutch, because they talk about the Walpurgis Nicht or night, typical festivity. But at the same time, I understand why you wanted to do a new edition of this book with a new story, because obviously the Salem's trials are really famous, and so he decided to set this story in a place where these trials were so well known. It didn't make sense to set it in that location. But apart from that, it's a really good book. I wasn't really satisfied by the end. I don't know. While I was reading this book, I had different scenarios in my head to how this book would finish, and eventually none of these were right. So it surprised me, because this was something totally different from what I expected. I won't say what it is because I don't want to make spoilers, but I was surprised how this book ended. I don't know. I really want to know what the original ending was, and I will search it up, because I want to know what was different from the original one. This is a really good book, and I highly recommend you to read this one. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. There are more reviews coming, and I will see you into the next one.